Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good.
Great. Awesome.
Okay.
We are going to start the live stream in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
We have some audience here already.
Very good.
Hello, 观众大家好，我们马上会开始我们的直播。
你好。Hello.
Great. How are you this morning, Dr. Blair?
I am just fine. How are you, Serene?
Great. You look great in that tie.
Thank you very much. It's one of my favorites.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. How are you, Max?
Life is all,
Good.
yeah, life is better with polka dots.
Absolutely. Old school, bad school.
Correct.
And you got some coffee, Max?
Oh, running out of milk, so let's not go that direction.
Then go
Okay.
switch to tea.
I also do milk for tea, so forget about it.
Sounds great. I'm going to play our company advertisement video for now.
My name is Veda Kaplinsky, and I'm the chair of the piano department at the Juilliard School and the artistic director of its pre-college division.
My name is Robert McDonald. I'm a member of the piano faculties at the Juilliard School in New York City and the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia.
What we really should be focusing on today is creating audiences, creating people who simply love and appreciate music.
Musical education, it's one of the most important areas in terms of the development of the human being, human spirit.
Discover Melody is a unique online conservatory offering the highest level of musical training for all ages. Discover Melody's sophisticated virtual classroom brings world-class teachers right to you, and for more than just one-on-one instrument lessons. Help us connect the world through education and live to love music at discovermelody.com.
大家好，欢迎来到旋律音乐教育微课。
旋律和声调
融入到我们的演奏之中。Not only artistically.
You feel the vibration. 谢谢大家对旋律音乐教育的持续的关注。
Live to love music.
Music education reimagined. I look forward to teaching you.
Live to love music.
Live to love music.
Hello， 大家好，欢迎来到 WeMusic 国际名师公益直播讲堂，我是今天的主持人 Max。我现在呢位于纽约曼哈顿的 WeMusic 音乐教育公司担任项目发展部的总监。今天很荣幸有机会为大家带来我们的第一讲，音乐造就21世纪核心技能。相信大家刚刚看过我们的暖场视频之后呢，对 WeMusic 也有了一个更有画面感的认识。我在这里呢也是为大家简单的做一些介绍。那 WeMusic 致力于 将线上教育与传统教育模式相结合，连接我们全球化音乐教育资源，打造音乐教师进修、学员演奏水平提升以及艺考与音乐特长生留学辅导等项目。我们聚集了全球顶尖的音乐家、教育家，为来自世界各地的音乐学者和爱好者提供了卓越的音乐教育和文化交流的渠道与平台。除此之外，我们 WeMusic 也以服务资源短缺的学生群体来实现我们对社会的艺术推广使命。那接下来不多说了，我为大家介绍一下我们直播间今天请到的两位嘉宾。第一位呢，是我们今天的重磅嘉宾 Dr. Timothy Blair 布莱尔博士。他是一个全方位发展的音乐家、教育家。在他40多年的职业生涯当中呢，作为钢琴演奏家，他获得了施坦威艺术家的头衔。作为教育家，他在美国宾州希彻斯特大学创立了视觉与表演艺术学院，并担任30余年的院长与钢琴教授。Welcome, Dr. Blair.
Welcome, Dr. Blair. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
好，那今天我们的第二位嘉宾呢，是一位非常多才多艺的耶鲁学霸，也是我的同事 Chia-Ying 李思玲。他曾以第1名的成绩考入中央音乐学院附中学习作曲专业，并以全额奖学金被耶鲁大学录取学习音乐与国际关系专业。他非常的优秀啊，他还以这个创作型的歌手的身份呢，曾出过多张的单曲与专辑。思玲今天不光是与我们一起讨论，也会帮助布莱尔博士为大家一起翻译。非常感谢思玲 ，Thank you, Chia-Ying.
Thank you very much. 不客气。Hello， 大家好，我是李思玲，非常高兴可以有这个机会和布莱尔博士在线和大家一起来去连线，并且为大家呈现一次直播讲座。谢谢 Max。那话不多说，我们简单的介绍一下今天的直播内容。那首先呢，我想和 Max 一起带给大家一个好消息，就是我们成功的邀请 Dr. Blair 为我们今天的3位幸运观众去呈现免费的大师课，所以大家只要扫码就可以参与抽奖。
对，这是一个非常好的这个千载难逢的这个机会。我们 WeMusic 呢，今天会为大家提供3节免费的与 Dr. Blair 1对1大师班的机会。所以不论你是钢琴学生还是已经步入职场的音乐老师，都欢迎你踊跃的报名抽奖。报名的方式非常简单，大家只要扫描这里的二维码，填入你的基本信息即可。那么已经关注我们微信公众号的朋友呢，直接点击公众号下方的直播课，进入抽奖入口就可以了。刚刚思玲有讲到我们今天的这个流程我就给大家这个简单的说一下。那我们的 Dr. Blair 呢，他是非常的敬业，他为今天的访谈呢还专门录制了一个10分钟的干货小视频，为大家非常详细的去讲解音乐创造21世纪核心技能。思玲，你想给我们介绍一下我们今天的流程吗？
好的。然后在播放这个10分钟的讲座视频之后呢，我们会首先请 Dr. Blair 为我们演奏一首来自 Brahms 勃拉姆斯的音乐作品。之后 Max 和我呢会根据我们的这个视频讲座内容来进行一系列的问题采访，让我们真正的把这个视频里面的干货怎么去实际应用来去和 Dr. Blair 进行讨论。那这个期间呢，我和 Max 也会进行交易和 Dr. Blair 用中文英文双语开谈。那最后在结束的时候呢， Dr. Blair 还会为大家演奏一曲，然后就欢迎观众朋友们和我们大家一起进行互动，一起去提出你们畅所欲言，提出你们所有的问题。那我们先开始进行10分钟的讲座播放。Dr. Blair, we're going to go ahead and play your lecture video.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Dr. Timothy Blair. I'm here to talk with you today about the benefits of the study of music beyond music performance. Many people probably think that when a musical work is performed, the goal has been accomplished, and that's it. What has to be remembered are the added benefits of the study of music and a musical education, which are unseen but nevertheless are there. They're benefits that are applicable to any walk of life. Many students who study music do not become professional musicians, but what they gain through the study of music, to some extent in a similar fashion to sports, provides those students with an added skill set that will serve them well throughout their entire lives. These days, employers are not just looking for a successful graduate with a fantastic GPA and excellent grades. Employers are looking for problem solvers, people who are able to function on their own, to find solutions and to find answers to challenges, as well as being able to serve effectively on a team and bring something to the team, to strengthen the team, or better yet, to lead the team. I'm going to mention 5 skills today that are part of a skill set that every student of music gains. The first is critical, analytical thinking skills. The ability to look at a musical score and make determinations about myriad details. For instance, as a pianist, I happen to be a pianist, we learn to multitask. We have 10 fingers. We have to figure out what to do with each of them most effectively. So we have to decide which finger goes on what note to provide a very efficient passage to be performed. We have to think about that. We have to make a notation in the score so that every time we practice that same passage, we are consistent and we use the same fingering so that the mind, which is a tape recorder, records the very same fingering for the very same note each and every time. We look at a score, we have to determine dynamics, loud, soft, and everything in between. We have to look at the structure of the score. How is the piece of music composed? What are the composer's intentions? We have to look at the melodic and the harmonic content. We have to look at balances of how to bring out the melody versus the harmony, the inner voices, and many, many other things. But most importantly, a student of music in doing so is an active learner, not a passive learner. You cannot effectively learn music and perform it effectively by being a passive learner. You must be an active, engaged learner at all times. Now, creativity enters the picture. When you study music, you learn not to just look at what's there. You learn to envision what you would like to happen, what you would like to see. You learn to think beyond the box, not just inside the box. And sometimes, if you're really creative, you invent an entirely new box. And the study of music is a wonderfully creative endeavor. It inspires the mind to go places where it may not have thought it was possible to do. If you have critical analytical thinking skills coupled with creativity, you provide immediately a formidable contribution to any company or any endeavor. But we don't just function alone. We have to work with others. So we learn yet another C. We've had 2, creative and critical analytical thinking skills, and now we have collaboration. Because if you are serving as a student, as an accompanist. Well, now there's another person performing with you. You cannot have two soloists perform effectively a piece of chamber music. Now you learn to listen to the other person. That other person learns to listen to you. Importantly, you learn anticipation. You learn to be involved so precisely that you anticipate and react accordingly to what your partner is doing in the performance. When you perform in an orchestra, well, now you have all of your colleagues around you. They all come from different backgrounds, probably different stylistic understandings. There is the conductor, who is ultimately in charge of the greater collaboration of the entire orchestra. So when you learn these collaborative skills, and you can bring them to a business, now you can strengthen a team by your contributions and perhaps become the leader of the team. Even better. A fourth C is communication, and learning how to communicate effectively so that the other person understands not just what you're saying, but the other person learns what you really mean. Also, you learn to be not just a talker, you have to learn to be a listener. And remember, in music, you learn how to listen. Effective communication works both ways. Effectively expressing an idea, but also learning to listen to what the other person has to say and what they mean. Through the study of music, one learns to hone their communication style and their communication in general. That leads us to the fifth C, which may be last, but it's certainly not least, because it helps create a larger package of the other four, and it's called confidence. Confidence. One must always be confident in presentation. So when you are a performer and you're performing for an audience, in the business world, we would consider the audience to be our customers. You must be persuasive. You must also learn to read that audience. You must respond accordingly, and at the same time remain true to the intent of the composer of the piece of music you're performing. So you are both internally driven and internally focused, but externally focused as well on an audience. You learn confidence through the practicing of performance. Each time that you walk out on stage to perform, you are honing your skills as a confident presenter. So today we've talked about 5 skills, and I leave you with this. I have a very good friend in the world of finance, and he constantly reminds me that when he hires someone for his business and for his interests, because he relies on the people he hires for his own livelihood, he always finds somebody who has had musical training in addition to their business training. Because as a musical student, you learn the kind of extra skills beyond the textbook that effectively help make sales and make you a true people person. So I've enjoyed speaking with you today. I look forward to seeing you in the very near future, and also to a panel discussion that I will be having later on with 2 of my colleagues who certainly will have additional questions. Thank you very much.
Dr. Blair?
Yes.
Thank you very much. 那相信大家在看完刚刚的这个视频之后，一定很想领略一下大师的风采。那我们现在首先请 Dr. Blair 为我们先演奏一曲。Dr. Blair, after viewing your videos, I believe that many would like to just view your performance and you as an artist. Would you play a piece for us as we kick this panel discussion off?
Sure. For the sake of time, I will play a section of a piece that I've picked up this morning. It's the Brahms Intermezzo in A major, Opus 118, number 2.
今天他为大家演奏的是勃拉姆斯的间奏曲 Opus 118里面的第2首，请大家欣赏。谢谢 Dr. Blair 的一曲勃拉姆斯 Thank you very much.
Bravo, thank you, Dr. Blair.
那 Dr. Blair 呢，今天也是答应我们会为幸运的观众3位幸运的观众来进行免费的大师课，所以大家一定要抓紧时间扫码预约哦。那 Dr. Blair 呢，他不仅是一个施坦威钢琴家，他本身也是一个教育家，钢琴教育家，然后在全世界各地也进行了很多的大师课你的巡回教授。那他也是像刚刚 Max 开头有介绍过20多年的这个音乐学院管理的经验所以呢，今天我们请他来讲这个音乐教育里面的5个核心技能，那是再合适不过了。So we find it very fitting that we have invited you to talk about the 5 critical skills for the 21st century, given the fact that you are a pianist, an educator, and a manager, a dean of many years. So I would just like to go right ahead into our first question, which is, among the 5 C's that you just discussed, which one in your teaching history or experience is the one you find most lacking? 那所以我们的第一个问题呢，就是刚刚教授讲到的5个 C 里面沟通批判性思维、信心、合作和交流，哪一个是他觉得学生最欠缺的呢？
Without question,
毫无疑问
it would be critical analytical thinking.
他认为是批判性和分析性的思维最欠缺。
Many students come to me playing lots of notes,
很多学生到我这儿来弹很多音，
but missing many things in the score of
但是
music.
缺乏很多对乐谱的理解和自身的诠释。
Everything we do musically
我们
and
所有一切做的音乐上的东西呢，
otherwise involve the ability to critically analyze what's in the musical score
都需要可以在音乐里面去批判性的去分析掌握里面给我们的信息，
or what's in front of us.
或者我们眼前的信息。
And that means that the teacher and the student have to immediately begin a dialogue.
所以就说教师和学生之间一定要马上的开始一个问答，一个交流对话，来去进行这方面的训练。
In the beginning, the teacher provides information to the student,
刚开始呢，老师给学生提供信息，
but then the teacher ultimately wants to get the student to begin to provide feedback to the teacher about what they see in the musical
但
score.
最重要的是，老师要学会如何去调动学生，去阐述音乐，去问学生问题，让学生可以从自身的角度来去把乐谱里面的信息或者自己的想法告诉给老师。I think that's a great point. And I wonder if you could provide us some specific question type or example so that our teachers and students can say that, oh, this is the type of question that we need to be asking or receiving. 那所以我想问 Dr. Blair 就是什么样的问题我们的学生和老师可以去就更加对于这样的问题类型更加的敏感，去知道就说这样的问题是有助于我去思考的。
Of course, when you're working with a student as a teacher, as you know, my colleagues all around the world,
作为老师，当你和学生在沟通的时候呢，
our big goal is to get a student to look at the score and realize, oh, I have to decide what is the composer's intention.
我们的目标是让学生在看谱子的时候，首先他的思维方式就是作者的意图是什么，他的含义他的作者的目标是什么。
Many things need to be decided from do we play this passage softly? Do we play it loudly? Do we play something in between?
很多决定等待着学生来去做出，比如说这个地方我们是要轻一点弹，用什么指法弹，用什么语气弹，这都是应该是一个学生和老师一起通过作者意图来去获取的这一个信息。
The composer gives us tempo, so we have to know what the tempo marking actually means.
作曲家会告诉我们他要什么速度，但是我们的工作来去想为什么他会标记这一个速度，为什么他会标记这些东西进行讨论。
Sometimes I ask my students, what is the tempo the composer wants you to take? And
有
they
时候我会
don't.
问我的学生，你觉得作曲家想让你弹一个什么样的速度？为什么会有这样的想法和音乐的乐感有什么关系？
Something that I work very hard with the student to come to understand critically is what is a musical sentence? What is a phrase?
比如说，经常我会问我的学生，从批判性的角度说，哪里到哪里是一个乐句哪里是一个就是在结构上很重要的这么一个音乐信息。
A student or a performer or a teacher has to learn that a musical phrase begins and it moves through time and space and comes to a conclusion.
I really like the way you said move through time and space because this is getting a little abstract, but it's very visual. 所以刚刚 Dr. Blair 说到一点是关于，比如说举个例子，关于这个乐句，他说一个乐句是超越时间、空间是在这个我们一个想象的空间里面去进行的，所以我觉得他这点说的非常好，要调动我们的想象力，因为它不仅仅是乐谱上面看到的这几个黑点更是就是在时间和空间的这个概念里面，它给我们带来什么样的一个感受。
Musicians who sing, musicians who play wind instruments have to inhale and naturally play a phrase.
比如说弦乐的学生或者管乐的学生，他们需要呼吸，然后去演奏，然后这会使他们演奏乐句比较自然。
Pianists forget to breathe.
钢琴家呢经常会忘记呼吸了，钢琴的学生会犯这个毛病。
So I'm always encouraging students, by asking them, what's the first thing you do before you play the first note? And usually in the beginning, I get sort of a blank stare.
所以他经常会问学生，在你什么都不做最开始之前，你要做的第一件事情是什么？其实他的意图是想让学生说啊，我要先呼吸，然后再开始。但学生经常会一脸茫然地看着他。I really like this point because you're not just talking about play, you're talking about the whole preparation, to commence the whole practice or performance or whatever.
So the answer is, before you play your first note, inhale and then begin to play because that makes more natural music.
所以最重要的是这个也是一个可能大家常常想不到的一个批判性或者分析性的思维，就是在你弹音乐之前，作为一个人，你的表现什么样的，个人状态是什么样的，是否有呼吸来去开始。Well, I really like the points you've touched on. You've talked about musical structure. You've talked about things to receive from the music information, and you've talked about breathing. So I think it's very holistic. We can be critically, analytically thinking in all these different aspects. 所以就是批判性和分析性的思维不仅仅是通过乐谱，更是通过你整个人对于音乐的理解或者对于自我形象的管理，都是可以从这些角度的。你觉得呢 Max？
我觉得 Dr. Blair 刚刚讲的非常的好。那我这样的话呢，我觉得因为我也是从业非常多年的钢琴老师，所以就是我经常会想到一个就是像家长，因为我们很多的琴童经常也是因为练琴的关系和家长有各种各样的不管是矛盾啊还是就是小打小闹啊，所以我就有的时候在想像 Dr. Blair 您讲的这5个 C， 家长是不是也可以就是向您学习呢？然后怎么样家长可以去借用您说的这5个 C 运用到他们平常的陪练或者和孩子的陪伴当中呢？ Dr. Blair, I was just asking, what is the parents' role in supporting cultivating 5 C's, especially when they're not musicians?
First of all, neither of my parents were musicians.
首先他说我的爸爸妈妈都不是音乐家。
My mother had a natural ability, loved music.
但他们都很喜欢音乐。
The most important thing that my parents did was
他父母为他做过最重要的事情呢，就是
to encourage
鼓励他
and to be supportive of my
并且支持他。Okay, encouragement and support. I imagine a lot of parents are like, I'm trying to be encouraging, I'm trying to be supportive, but how?
Well, first of all, we have to understand our roles. The parents are not the teacher, so the teacher has a role, the parents have a role. One of the things that's very helpful for a parent to do
Just to interrupt you to translate. 刚刚 Dr. Blair 讲到一个很好的点，就是可能有很多家长说我想去鼓励啊，我想去支持啊，但我又想监督啊，我该怎么平衡，我该怎么做好。Dr. Blair 说首先家长们要摆正一下自己的位置，就是家长和老师毕竟是2个不同的角色，这个角色一定要分开。有时候家长呢可能会不经意间就做了老师应该做的事情，比如说
Parents, when their child is practicing, it's basically the child doing the child's job. But at the end of the practicing session, something that's very helpful is for the parent to walk into the room and say to the student, their child, tell me what you're working on and what you hope to accomplish.
Dr. Blair 的意思呢是说一定要让小孩子觉得练琴这个事情是我的一个工作，是我需要做的事情，我要对这个事情负责。然后在每一个练琴结束或快要结束的时候，家长都要问说你今天的小目标或者工作内容是什么呀？你可不可以来教我或者告诉我？以这样的方式去做一个鼓励和支持的角色。
That's very empowering to their child because now their child can actually begin to show the non-musical parent.
这对于孩子来说是非常有力量的，因为他们可以给比如说不懂音乐的爸爸妈妈来去解释，来去讲解，给他们一种自主感。
What the goal is. I remember with my own mother.
他们的目标是什么？
And I would explain to her, this marking means soft. This marking means loud.
我现在还记得我跟我妈妈 指着谱子上面说，这个地方呢是弱，这个地方呢是强啊，这个地方是我所学习到的东西，以及为什么我要这么弹，这样就可以自然而然的让孩子和家长之间有一个趣味性的沟通。
My mother began to enjoy my practicing because she was learning things she would never have learned before.
我妈妈呢也很享受带领我去陪伴我去练习这个过程，因为她从我身上呢也学习到了以前没有想过的东西，没有接触到的知识。
And I began to feel pretty good about the fact that I not only was improving, but I was able to communicate to both my parents, actually.
Communications and confidence.
Yes.
That's awesome. 他说在这个过程里面呢，他就慢慢的变得自信，并且知道如何去和爸爸妈妈或者跟别的人去交流他所在学到的东西所以我觉得他刚刚已经不经意间点到了从这个家长和学生沟通的这个关系里面，其实可以建立起学生的这个自信心和他们沟通的交流的这个能力。
对，我觉得刚刚 Dr. Blair 讲的这个沟通，特别是沟通和交流的这个能力，我觉得沟通特别是在我们刚刚学习到一个新的知识点的时候，不管我们今天学的是数学、英语、钢琴、小提琴，还是一段舞蹈我们刚学到一个知识点或者一个动作的时候，在我们转述告诉别人我们现在在做的是什么，这个期间这个过程是非常的重要的，因为这个是一个 reinforcement of the learning process. So Dr. Blair, I cannot agree with you more. I think that's a very important point that you were just talking about in terms of communication and collaboration, especially when you're telling a third person what you just have learned, which is a form of communication. It's a reinforcement of the knowledge you just learned, and that's the key process in every type of learning, no matter if it's for music, for arts, for sport, or for math.
Yes, if you cannot communicate back what you are supposed to know, that means you didn't actively learn it.
这一点说得很好，就是如果学生不能很好的去重复去用自己的语言去解释学到的东西，那说明他们没有学进去。那我觉得无论是家长还是老师都可以用这样的一个方式来去检查他到底有没有消化我们今天讲的内容，而不是一股脑的去把信息 instruct 去指示给学生。
So one little question within this topic, what would you say the do not do for parents? The questions do not ask, the things that you really don't recommend parents to do.
Max 的一个很好的问题就是说，那在这个话题里面 Dr. Blair 认为家长不应该问或者要小心问最好别问的这么一些问题是什么呢？
I would advise parents not to inadvertently remove the fun of music making by asserting themselves into the process that should be the part of the process where the teacher is doing what's necessary.
他说家长们呢要这个用心以及就是还是要动一点脑筋，就是要想一想，就是我会不会在不经意间就把练琴或者学琴的乐趣给抵消掉了我是不是在不经意间就是把这个老师要做的工作或者一些比较纪律性的技术性的事情给 take over 了。所以其实我觉得他的本意就是家长要明确如何和老师以及学生之间这个配合其实很微妙哈。
I would say that the most important thing for all of us to understand is each child is an individual, and we want each child to be the best they can be.
我们需要明确的是每一个孩子都不一样，他们的性格他们的这个表达方式沟通方式都不一样，我们要做的工作就是非常仔细的想怎么让他作为一个个体去成长成为他最好的样子。
That's very good point. Very good point. So I think we would move forward with our third question of today. Sarah, please.
那我们刚刚讲到很多关于家长的角色，那从老师的角度呢，我们也想问问 Dr. Blair 如何可以带着这个培养5个核心技能的这种思维方式来去进行更好的教学呢 因为5个核心技能不仅是目标，也是一个动力，可以这么说。So our third and final question is, as part of a panel discussion to you, Dr. Blair, today, it's how can teachers be 5C minded to teach? Because 5C is not only a byproduct, as you said before, it's also a reason why we're doing education at all.
A good education is a holistic education. And that's why I focus on these 5 skills. Because if it's music, if it's biology, if it's pre-med, if it's law, whatever the discipline is, you need these 5 skills to be successful.
首先 Dr. Blair 说无论是学习什么法律啊，这个数理化呀，或者文学啊，这5个核心的技能都是很重要的。所以在音乐教育里面也是一样，我们需要以它作为一个目标，时时刻刻的想我怎么样可以把这5个核心的技能融入到我的教学和学生的学习里面。那在这里提醒大家一下，5个 C 呢，就是critical analytical thinking 批判性思维creativity 创造力 communications 沟通能力 collaboration 合作以及confidence 信心。
The more that you understand the score, the better your critical analytical skills will be. In terms of creativity,
那如果你非常的了解乐谱的话，你就知道如何去分析，以及去用批判性的方式来去进行沟通跟学生。
In terms of creativity, teachers can introduce composition, they can introduce theory, and improvisation.
那从这个创造力的角度来说，那老师呢在初始阶段要更加的带动学生，通过去介绍不同的作曲家音乐类型音乐作品然后去做不同的连线并且跟学生们玩这种即兴演奏这样的活动，那里面会涉及到乐理的培养、视唱练等等。
When a teacher introduces a duet with his or her student, that's collaborative.
当老师带一首这个4手联弹或者一首重奏的作品到这个工作室来的时候，这是一个鼓励学生进行合作这样的一个动作。
And in the learning process,
在学习过程中呢
in the learning process, when the teacher asks the students questions and there's a dialogue, that's great for communication skill.
那至于沟通和交流能力呢，那老师也是要以这个带领者的方式去不断的问学生各式各样的问题，去让学生当然也是根据学生的性格和能力不一样去调动他们，让他们也可以多说对。
When we put those 4 skills together, we get the 5th one, which is confidence.
在刚刚上述的4个 C 4个核心技能之后，就会自然而然的带出第5个，就是信心。因为学生如果没有信心的话，他没有办法和你在这个过程里面去投入去沟通。
Something unique that WeMusic has to offer, all of our teachers follow this concept of holistic instruction.
Dr. Blair 说到，我们 WeMusic 的老师都是非常的了解这5个核心技能的，他们所有教学的方式和方法都是从这5个核心技能出发，通向这5个核心技能所以 please go on.
We most importantly want to produce musicians, not technicians.
我们最重要的是想培养的是音乐家和艺术家，而不是匠人我记得 Dr. Blair 之前说过一句话特别好，就是 We teach student first, and then piano, violin, fill in the blanks. Dr. Blair 之前说过一句话，就是首先我们不是教小提琴或者钢琴或者大提琴，我们是教这个人，教这个学生所以我觉得这个是需要无论是家长还是老师还是学生都意识到的一个问题。Right, thank you very much for answering our questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Blair. I think that also actually you really talked about the fact that WeMusic serves not only to the students but also to the teachers as well. So I would just like to remind everybody, this is a series of talk and conversations, live stream with some pre-recorded webinars will be hosted every Friday, same time every Friday. So please join us next week for teachers, our topic next week would be how to have a successful lesson.
One of my roles at the university was how to teach teachers to teach. It was called.
刚刚其实我们也Q 到了一下我们下一期未来很多期都会讲到的一个话题，就是什么样的课无论什么乐器才是一个成功的课尤其从老师的角度来说，我们怎么样去构架一门课，这样才能让就是学生和老师都明白这个我钱没有白花，或者我的精力没有白投入，这堂课是真材实料，我真的有收获，并且知道如何去练习。因为当然今天的话题呢是比较宽泛一些的，那在未来的几期里面我们会比较具体的去一个一个痛点来去攻击这些痛点，去讲解我们非常实用的一些问题。那在这里呢也鼓励大家和我们 WeMusic 循律音乐教育保持联系，我们的线上有很多非常棒的来自名校背景的外教音乐家老师，然后他们呢都是对于演奏和教学都非常的有一套，知道如何去在教学中融入我们刚刚提到的这5个重要的核心技能。
So that brings us to our final question today. In this digital age, how to ensure 5 C's in music education? And what do you think of this, Dr. Blair?
Well, there's good news, and that is the 5 C's in musical education. If the teacher initially engages the student's mind in the score, remember I said the score comes first. The score tells us what it is that is supposed to happen.
那现在 sorry just to interrupt you， 那现在在这个全球疫情下，很多这个线下线上其实已经进行转换或者结合了。那 Max 刚追加了一个问题很好，就是在这个数字环境里面，我们怎么样可以带着5C 核心技能去学习音乐呢？然后 Dr. Blair 说，好消息就是5C 这5个核心技能其实无论是线上还是线下都是非常核心的，所以线上只是一种形式。那回到刚刚他刚开始说的这个阅读曲谱，从曲谱里面获取 information 获取信息，就是一个在线上也可以进行的一个环节一个操作。
You know, we don't just give out information and then correct mistakes.
我们不能给信息然后纠错，就不是那么简单的一个动作。这更不能在线上进行这样简单的沟通。
We're trying to instill growth in the student.
我们希望的是在整个过程里面注入成长。教授讲的这个概念比较大，大家要去意会一下。
When a student learns to effectively work with one other person, one other musician, they've learned collaborative skills immediately.When they have to discuss with the other person what it is they want to do for the next phrase, they're learning communication. So there's 3 of the skills as byproducts of the music. And then, eventually we get to be very confident.
What are some tips that you could do to collaborate with someone digitally?
The best part, I think, about this holistic 5C approach is, as you can see, I can talk to almost anybody, anytime, anywhere in the world virtually and have a discussion about this. I don't have to be in the room with them.
Dr. Blair 说，我们这个线上平台这个奇妙就是，虽然不用在一个房间里面，但是大家可以通过科技依然去进行沟通，最主要是大家有这个自主力和自发性。那刚刚讲到这个 5C 呢，都是在这个我们的对话里面，然后我们的材料里面，就是可以去注入的。
For teachers, it's wonderful because I'm able, for instance, to teach a student, let's say in Minnesota.who I would never have been able to teach before because it's too far away.
他说，比如说，如果有一个学生在明尼苏达州，他之前是在线下教授不了的，因为不在一个地方嘛。但是
Yeah, exactly. Because of the technology that we have and all these wonderful platforms, such as the platform we're using now, be able to bridging a different country, different generation, different topic, all within one screen. And that's the amazing.
Well,
absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, and at this point, I think we would like to just invite our audience to think about some questions they would like to ask you. And as they think, would you play something different for us?
Oh, sure. Listen, the one thing that I find interesting is we're talking about 5Cs and we live in a 5G world.
他觉得比较有意思的是，我们活在一个5G 时代，现在讨论这个5C ？Great, thank you so much.
Thank you
Would you
so
be able to
much,
tell us
Dr.
a little bit about the piece?
Sure. One of the things as a teacher I like to do with students is to instruct a variety of music. Students get fatigued if they play the same piece over and over and over again. So I always have different kinds of music in my lessons. And so this is a piece.
Dr. Blair 说他经常要保证就是在教学的过程中，或者他自身都要弹各种各样不同的音乐，来保持这个学生的这个包括自己的这个音乐上的新鲜感。然后他说注意到有的老师会让学生很长一段时间都只弹一首曲子，那其实这个是有时候会对学生的积极性是造成打击的。
So this is a piece from the 1930s.
这首曲子呢是1930年代的一首作品。
By a very famous American jazz musician, Fats Waller.
是一位叫做 Fats Waller 的美国爵士音乐家谱写的。Great, thank you very much.
And it uses a style called stride piano, where you take
用这个爬音的方式，这是一个风格，一个演奏风格，是大概从那个时候开始的。那现在可能大家经常会用到这种。Okay, that's great. 那
The title was Ain't Misbehavin'.
就是这个曲目的标题，这个中文有点难翻译，大概就是是不是有点调皮？问号，大概是这个感觉。Okay.
Wow, that's a very interesting name for a piece, and that actually leads to our next session, which is our Q&A session with our audience. And the first question from our assistant that passed to us is actually very much related to what you just said, misbehavior. So there is a parent is asking in our chat box saying, 如果孩子到达学习的瓶颈期，不愿意学该怎么办呢？也很苦恼，作为家长也不希望自己和孩子的关系变得非常的紧张。Sarah, would you like to help me translate that?
Absolutely. So if my child reached an age when he gets a little naughty or restless or, mischievous, and I can't put him on the piano to practice, what should I do? I don't want my, relationship with my kid to get compromised.
Well, I don't know your particular child, but you must find a way in to what makes the child tick.
他说虽然我不知道你的孩子的性格是什么样，但是你需要回答的问题是什么是让他take， 什么是让他能够获取他的注意力抓住他的，对于他来说什么是有吸引力的。
So it comes to two things. One of the responsibilities to the parent is by the teacher to engage the student so the student finds practicing to be satisfying in some way.
那家长可以做的一个事情呢，就是通过某一种合适学生的方式，让他觉得练琴这个事情，比如说调整时间或者目标导向，让他觉得练琴这个事情是有收获感，是有成就感。
And most children innately want to please.
所有的孩子呢，从这个儿童心理学的角度来说，他们都是希望讨好的，无论是家长还是老师。
My own parents kept me engaged by praise and reward.
奖励和鼓励是非常好使的。
So at the end of the week, my mother would say, well, I hear from your teacher. She was very pleased with you, so you get an ice cream cone.
奖励的方式的多种多样我觉得大家也可以去这个展开想象力去想一想，无论是冰淇淋还是大红花还是一场游戏。
To this day, I'm not quite sure whether I was satisfied with the music or I was going to get that ice cream cone no matter what.
I have here received another question, which is for my kid who is, shy to communicate. When it comes to communication, shy to talk. 就是有一个家长私信问说，那我的孩子不是很爱表达，不是很爱交流，那我是不是要逼着他说话呢？还是我怎么让他更加的愿意去自我表达？所以我们来问问 Dr. Blair, how can we get some kid to, to create the space for them to speak?
Well, we have extroverts and we have introverts, and some children are introverted for whatever reason. So
有的孩子是外向，有的孩子是内向。
So we have to find a way to make them feel comfortable.
所以我们要思考的问题是怎么样让他们觉得舒服。
And to draw them out.
并把他们引出来。
But remember, a lot of introverted, shy, quiet children, and believe it or not, I was one.
他说有很多内向的害羞的小孩，他说你信不信由你，我以前是非常内向害羞的一个人。
Music speaks to that child.
音乐是可以和他沟通的。
At the same time,
那同时呢
At the same time, I've seen many conservatory students who graduate, and they play beautifully, and then you turn to them and say, would you speak to the audience? And they can't really say anything.
但他说这个在音乐教育里面有一点也是有很多音乐学院里面的学生，他们可以弹得很好，但是却面对观众却不知道如何表达，却说不出来，所以这个确实也是一个痛点需要去解决的。当然这个也跟每个人的性格也是有关系。
So keep using the art of the question. Ask questions.
所以问问题是一门艺术无论是你的学生是什么年龄，去问他们问题，让他们去思考，因为当你思考就会有表达的欲望。
And if they don't have the answer, you follow up with another question and say, could it be? Is it possible? What do you think?
然后可以用引导性的问题，比如说有没有是这个可能呢？给他一些选择题会不会是这样的一种感觉？你是否这么觉得？在这种方式里面去增加就是老师和学生之间的这个沟通以及互动，互相了解的感受。
And I will tell you, as a young child of 4, when I began, I found myself surrounded by the love of my teacher and the love of my parents. And that was the most nurturing thing that could have happened.
Great. I feel like that's a great point to end on for today's discussion, to circle back to love and warmth. 那刚刚 Dr. Blair 也总结性的给我们带来了一个特别好的一个观点，就是他从小他都觉得他在学习音乐的过程里面是被爱的，是被温暖包围的所以我觉得这个是非常耐人寻味的，因为在这个充满爱心或者关心的这个关系里面，在家长和学生之间，老师和学生之间看上去都是不一样的。
Thank you so much, Dr. Blair, for your wonderful performance, along with all your wonderful explanation of our difficult and yet fun questions.
It was fun. I had fun. I hope all of our viewers had some fun and hopefully learned something too.
Thank you. Dr. Blair 说今天也很高兴和大家来探讨这些看似非常大、非常深刻，但是又非常重要的问题。那希望在视频前的这个观众朋友们也有所收获。
I look forward to seeing all of you soon.
他希望尽快的继续在线上和大家交流。那在我们今天的活动结束之前呢，我们也鼓励大家关注我们下一期的直播课并且扫码 预约我们 Dr. Blair 为大家提供的大师课1对1线上1对1和他进行一个 free masterclass session， 大家只要扫码就可以填表进行预约了。那今天呢，再次非常感谢 Dr. Blair， 也感谢 Max， 我们一起讨论了这5个 C 的重要性，并且期待在未来的session 里面和大家更多的讨论到一些痛点以及解决方法，以及为大家呈现各种各样不同的音乐。
好，
谢
谢大家。那
我们的直播就到
时间与大家再见。
下次再见，拜拜。Thank you, Dr. Blair.
Bye now.
Bye.